Some of you have been praying for God to move, but He's been waiting on you to move. You're asking for breakthrough while sitting in the comfort zone like it's a sanctuary when it's really a prison. You're clinging to comfort like it's a blessing, but maybe it's the very thing blocking your blessing. Let me ask you something. What if the miracle isn't in the manna anymore? What if it's in the movement? You've been trying to stay safe, trying to stay settled, trying to stay in what's familiar, but God isn't interested in your safety. He's interested in your surrender. He didn't create you to sit on the sidelines of your calling, scrolling through someone else's purpose on Instagram, wondering when it'll be your turn. This is your turn. This is your call. Comfort zones are built on fear and decorated with excuses. They look like peace, but they're really just procrastination wrapped in nice furniture. But purpose is messy. Purpose is inconvenient. Purpose doesn't knock politely. It breaks in and flips your schedule upside down. It doesn't say, "Are you ready?" It says, "Follow me." God never called anybody in the Bible to something convenient. He called Moses out of the palace. He called Abraham out of his country. He called Peter out of the boat. He called Lazarus out of the grave. God is always calling you out before He brings you into. But if you're too in love with the in, you'll miss the out. And here's what I feel so strongly. Some of you are frustrated right now, but it's not because God forgot about you. It's because He's trying to grow you. You've been asking God to show up in your comfort, but He's trying to call you out of it. You want Him to bless what you're holding on to, but He's saying, "Let it go so I can give you what's next." You think it's fear keeping you stuck, but sometimes it's familiarity. You've gotten so good at surviving the season you're in, you stopped believing for the one you're meant to step into. But God doesn't bless comfort. He blesses courage, and courage doesn't mean you're not scared. Courage means you move anyway. There's a calling on your life that's too big for your comfort zone, and if you're waiting for the feeling of fear to disappear, you're going to wait forever. That fear won't leave. It just gets quieter when your faith gets louder. You're not stuck because you don't know what to do. You're stuck because you don't want to leave what you already know. But if the boat was your destiny, Jesus would have never called you out of it. If the palace was your purpose, Moses would have died there. If the grave was the final chapter, Lazarus wouldn't have heard his name echo through death. God doesn't call you out to punish you. He calls you out to position you. You were never meant to camp out in what was temporary. That comfort zone you're in, it was a resting place, not a residence. Don't pitch a tent where God only meant for you to pass through. Don't make a home in what was only meant to hold you for a season. And can I preach to somebody right now who's been wrestling with the unfamiliar? You're scared to step out because you don't know how it's going to work out. But faith was never about knowing the how. It's about trusting the who. The same God who parted the Red Sea doesn't need your plan. He needs your yes. The same God who fed 5,000 with 2 fish and 5 loaves doesn't need your perfection. He needs your obedience. God is calling you out. Out of excuses, out of shame, out of small thinking, out of toxic relationships, out of cycles that have kept you bound, out of the lie that says you're not enough, because you are not just called to be comfortable. You are called to be effective. You weren't saved to sit. You were saved to stand, to speak, to go, to build, to be, to step into the unknown because you know the one who knows. And when God says go, you don't need to understand the route. You just need to recognize the voice. Don't you dare let fear talk you out of what faith is trying to walk you into. You've been on that shore too long. You've been circling that mountain too many years. You've been staring at that door, waiting for it to open, and God is saying, walk toward it. I'll open it when you get close enough. Because purpose doesn't show up in your lap, it shows up in your leap. So this is it. This is the moment. This is your Red Sea. This is your Jordan. This is your upper room. This is your midnight in the prison cell. This is the tug you've been ignoring, the shift you've been resisting, the burning bush that's been right in front of you, waiting for you to stop explaining it away and answer. God will disrupt your comfort not to harm you, but to awaken the purpose He placed in you that can't grow where you've settled. Sometimes what we call an inconvenience is actually an invitation. What you thought was a breakdown might really be a breakthrough in disguise. God doesn't break routines just for the sake of chaos. He breaks routines because he's trying to break you out. You've been stuck in a rhythm that no longer matches the level God is calling you to walk in. He's not trying to destroy your peace. He's trying to destroy your pause. He's trying to get you to move again, to breathe again, to believe again, because the version of you that's sitting in that comfort zone is not the version he created in the secret place. The comfort zone is a counterfeit sanctuary. It promises peace, but it delivers stagnation. It gives you the illusion of control, but it slowly strips you of calling. God will allow you to get uncomfortable when comfort has become your crutch. When you start leaning on the approval of others more than the voice of the Holy Spirit, he'll start removing applause so you can remember his whisper. When you stop praying with expectation and start living in survival mode, he'll let the walls shake so you stop building on sand and start standing on his word again. He loves you too much to let you stay asleep in a season he's already moved on from. You might still be there emotionally, mentally, spiritually, but heaven has already transitioned and you're wondering why nothing feels the same. It's because the grace has shifted. What once worked is no longer working because the anointing has moved forward and you're still back where it was last convenient. That's the dangerous thing about comfort. It's quiet. It doesn't tell you it's killing your faith. It just wraps you up in predictability and rocks you to sleep. It tells you to stay where it's safe, stay where it's manageable, stay where people understand you. But purpose won't let you stay there. Purpose will keep pulling you. That's why you're uncomfortable. That's why you can't settle. That's why the job that once fulfilled you doesn't anymore. That's why the people you used to relate to feel distant now. That's why the routine you once found joy in now feels dry. It's not that everything around you is falling apart. It's that the seed inside you is trying to break open. You've been planted, but now it's time to push through. Sometimes growth feels like breaking, but the breaking isn't God being cruel. It's him being strategic. Because what you prayed for can't grow where you've camped out. You're praying for fruit, but God knows the soil around you has been exhausted. You're asking for overflow, but you've pitched your tent in famine. God didn't call you to pitch a tent in what was supposed to be a passage. You were meant to pass through that wilderness, not build a home there. But you got comfortable, and now he's disrupting it, not because he's mad, because he knows there's more, and the more isn't found in routine, it's found in release. He'll stir your environment until your only choice is obedience. He'll shake everything that can be shaken until only his will remains, because if he doesn't disturb it, you'll settle for less. You'll start calling your fear wisdom. You'll start calling your limitations God's timing. You'll start calling your excuses discernment. And that's why God has to interrupt your comfort, so your calling doesn't rot while you keep playing it safe. When God starts calling you out of comfort, it often looks like trouble. You'll lose connections you thought were permanent. You'll experience closed doors you were sure would open. You'll face resistance from places you thought were for you. But what feels like rejection is often just redirection. God will strip what's familiar to make room for what's faithful. He's more committed to your destiny than your preferences. He's not building your life around your likes. He's building it around your legacy, and legacy doesn't come from comfort. Legacy is birthed in the fire. Legacy is shaped in the wilderness. Legacy is refined in isolation. And if you want to step into the level God is leading you to, you have to stop idolizing the level he brought you from. You can't elevate while staying anchored to what's easy. Purpose requires a sacrifice. The disciples left boats. Abraham left his country. Ruth left her homeland. Elisha left his plow. What are you willing to leave? Because God will only disrupt what you've become too dependent on. He'll remove your cushion so you remember who your source is. He'll allow discomfort so you stop relying on comfort and start relying on Christ. You say you want to walk on water, but are you willing to step out of the boat? You want Goliath to fall, but are you willing to pick up the stone? You want the walls of Jericho to collapse, but will you march around the city when it looks ridiculous? We love the idea of purpose. but we don't always love the process of becoming. Purpose isn't about promotion. It's about preparation, and God prepares you by pressing you. He doesn't promote comfort. He promotes character, and your character doesn't grow when everything is easy. It grows when you're confused but still trust Him. It grows when you're tired but still obey. It grows when you're hurting but still believe. That's the kind of faith He's calling you into. Not comfortable faith. Courageous faith. He's not calling you to understand it. He's calling you to step, and that step will cost you. It might cost you your reputation. It might cost you relationships. It might cost you resources. But nothing you lay down in obedience ever goes to waste in the kingdom. God never asks you to surrender something without having something greater in mind. But you'll never see the greater if you're not willing to release the lesser. You're holding on to comfort like it's a gift, but it might be a test. God is asking, do you trust me more than this? Will you follow me even when you don't feel ready? Will you believe that I can use what feels broken to build something blessed? Some of the most powerful seasons in your life will start with a disruption, not a celebration, not a spotlight, but a breaking, and that breaking is not a sign of God's absence. It's the evidence of His intention. He's coming after the version of you that's been buried beneath disappointments, insecurities, fears, and false identities. He's breaking the comfort so He can uncover the calling. He's shaking the system so He can show you what's real. He's tearing down the illusion so you can walk in the authentic, because there's something inside you that's too big to be contained by convenience. There's a fire in you that comfort is trying to smother. And God is fanning the flames. He's using the wind. He's using the resistance. He's using the closed doors. He's using the tension, because He knows if He doesn't stretch you, you won't grow. And if you don't grow, you'll never go where He's leading. He's preparing something on the other side of your obedience, but you'll only see it when you stop worshiping what's safe. This is the moment He starts making you uncomfortable, not because He's angry. Because He's aligning you. You asked Him for more, and now He's making room. You asked Him to use you, and now He's pruning you. You asked Him to take you deeper, and now He's pulling you away from shallow places. He's not punishing you, He's positioning you, but He can't position what won't move. He can't grow what won't let go, and He can't fill what's already full of fear. So He disrupts your comfort. He lets things unravel. He lets people misunderstand. He lets your plans fail, because if they didn't, you'd never make space for His purpose. You'd stay in the boat. You'd cling to the familiar. You'd keep calling convenience a calling. And you'd miss the transformation that can only happen in transition. God does His best work in the space between comfort and calling, in the space where you're no longer who you were, but not yet who you're becoming. That's where He molds you. That's where He matures you. That's where He marks you. And yes, it's uncomfortable, but you're not being punished. You're being prepared. You're not being torn down. You're being tuned in. You're not being forgotten. You're being forged. There is a weight to your calling that comfort can't carry. There is a depth to your destiny that shallow waters will never reach. So God is stirring the waters. He's calling you out of the boat. He's disrupting the ease, because there's more in you. There's more to be done. There's a generation attached to your obedience. There are souls tied to your surrender. There is healing that will flow from your yes. There is revival that will break out from your refusal to stay small. Don't misinterpret the disruption. Don't mistake the shaking. Don't resent the unraveling. This isn't destruction. It's construction. This isn't rejection. It's redirection. This isn't the end. It's a new beginning. The pain isn't punishment. The loss isn't failure. The discomfort isn't disqualification. It's all part of the process. It's all pointing you forward. It's all pulling you out. Because God never wastes a season, and He's not about to start with this one.